The following episode may contain spoilers for the game Frosthaven. Welcome to episode 12 of our board game podcast, A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Eddie, and joining me, as always, a man who is really starting to fall away in the XP department, as everyone is level 5, and he only just managed to hit level 4. Say hi, level 4, Gaz!
Way to rub it in. Hi, everyone. Yes, it's great down here at the bottom of the barrel. Slumming it, being level 4, not getting cool new cards every other mission. And it's good that my close friends are rubbing it in and making sure I know about it.
Oh, look, it definitely gets much worse because we'll cover what happened towards the end of this scenario, but it was the reason we're level 5, right? Happy Easter as well to the world. Wait, the world celebrates Easter at the same time, or is this like one of those Queen's birthday situations?
No, I think it's Easter everywhere, or at least it's chocolate everywhere.
Chocolate everywhere?
Yeah, I mean different parts of the world don't celebrate Easter. We're not going to go into what Easter's all about in case you don't know, but yeah, that is mostly the same.
Yeah, so we are actually recording on Good Sunday, Easter Sunday, which was actually quite far away from when we actually played. We've had a very jam-packed week, so...
Well, it's so close to when we're going to play next. That's what's so exciting. I was like,
we're
literally going to record, and I suggested that maybe we record tomorrow just before we play our next session. It's like minimum amount of time, like the longest we possibly could go before playing a new scenario and forgetting everything that happened last week.
That's right. Well, I still have to edit it tonight before I sleep, and then we can play our next session, which... Mind you, it's a long weekend. I don't know, again, if that's the same everywhere else, which means we're probably looking to bang out another 2 tomorrow. That's a future me problem when it comes to editing 2 episodes, or an episode with 2 scenarios in it, but I look forward to that, and we'll get to it.
Just on that, though, I think we might be doing a boss, which means we might just get to repeat the same scenario for 12 hours.
That's true. We haven't had a boss scenario in a while, actually.
Not a hard one, anyway.
No, and this might be one that a lot of people have played, and they're like, they're coming up to the thong guy with, flip-flops, and we have to fight that guy.
Well, if you are interested and you have done a lot of bosses, we will be most likely next episode fighting the tree raven boss at the end of the thing. So stay tuned. Hopefully that's true.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. So over this weekend, I happened to also catch up with Phil and our group, right? The group. And we actually got to play some other board games, and there was 2 that came to mind. I don't think you've played one of them before, but we actually got to play Sidereal Confluence. Now, I'm going to butcher the name of it, but Palsetti Dykman, I think, was the designer, designed by WizKids. And you haven't actually played Sidereal Confluence trading and negotiating in the Elysium Quadrant, have you?
That's the one. I was like, I feel like that I've heard of that game and I've heard of people talking about it, but I feel like there's about 18 words following that name that I'm not hearing, so maybe it's a different version.
Well, this particular version, I don't know if WizKids did the original version that I have and have played. I haven't played it in years, but one of our friends, Nick, brought over this one with the updated graphics, and the game is just called Sidereal Confluence. So they
patched the name out.
Either that, or to carry the name across, they had to save some money, and they were charging by the word.
Yeah, well, I mean, that happens in movies and stuff sometimes, right? Like, I'm pretty sure the Fast and the Furious movies just got known as like Furious or Fast or something like that. Like, they just dropped words out. Yeah, pretty much. It's just like, come see Vin Diesel just doing donuts. Like, so
that's right.
So we got to
play that. We got to play Sidereal Confluence, and I haven't played it in a long time. We had a 6-player game. It was actually really enjoyable trying to remember it. But if you haven't played it, Gaz, it's kind of like asymmetrical sci-fi, right? Asymmetrical factions, but you're all got your own engines, and everyone's engine runs completely different. And you got all these cards that have these little engines on them, essentially, and they all change the value of cubes. So it's almost like one of my engines is you put 2 blue cubes in it, and 3 white cubes, and a big yellow cube will come out of it. And during the trade period, right, you've got all these different cubes in front of you. You can only use some of them. But other people, if you look around, their engines can use some of them. So all of a sudden you're like, cool, I really need 2 white cubes. I've only got 1, and my thing will need 3. How much you want for the 2 white cubes you've got? And he's like, well, I really need a yellow. And I was like, I don't have a yellow. That guy has a yellow. Cool. You got 10 minutes to do these trading around the tables to get kind of everyone what they want to then run your engines. And then there's a phase after that where you get to bid on new technologies, which will then unlock more parts of your engine, essentially, to the point where everyone's running these ridiculous engines, but you all rely on each other to make these engines work. It's actually really, really, really clever and really cool.
That sounds amazing. Is it just me that's never played it, or has
Yes.
our group never played it?
We just didn't want to play with you.
Yeah, that sounds like it. That's real rude.
I
So
100% think this is a game you will like a lot.
yeah, apparently. So you're like, let's make sure Gas doesn't get to play it. Yeah, but we'll tell him about it, like, and tell him like, hey, there's this thing. It's your jam, but we will probably never play it with you.
No, and Mangy, one of our mates, who was adamant the first time we played this, he was not going to trade anyone. He just sat there and mopey face, didn't do anything, and he lost terribly.
Yeah,
because you need to move.
When you're talking about cubes, it reminds me of Spice Road, the idea of like building an engine, but obviously this big trading element completely changes that because you're not just stuck in your own little mindset. But I remember you also you mentioned, I think when you played Spice Road with the same group, I don't think I was there, but one of the players, Will, decided that he was going to just try to win off the starter cards, never purchase anything, and actually got pretty close apparently. So
yeah, came second.
Yeah, kudos to that. But yeah, interesting.
Yes. So after we played that, I did not win. I think I came 3rd or 4th. We got to play Stationfall, which was what I brought. This is from Matt Eklund and Iron Game Design. This was a Kickstarter that came out either last year or year before, but it's just reached me now, and I played this with them with you, and we learned this one together actually with it was Stephanie, Leona. Someone in the tutorial gave us a bot with a name.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And yeah, you would like constantly like, okay, so the bot is going to go do this. Now go and have your turn, but you can't do any of these actions because it'll mess up her next turn.
That's right.
Okay, all right. So it's like a tutorial with training wheels, kind of where you jump down the wrong kind of alley, and it says like, please don't go that way.
I kind of like the way they did it though, because it really like introduced the systems to us and the thought process of how a player like her would go.
Yeah.
Even though she was very bossy with us and said, please don't go to this space and don't pick up that. It interacts with my processing essentially.
It was, yes, we make fun, but it worked really well for teaching the two of us how to do it. And you're right, because it allowed us to understand a little bit more about what can happen next, rather than some of the other ones we've talked about, which are just pure scripting the first 4 turns and then saying, okay, now you can play.
Yeah. And this game is it's flying up my charts as one of my favorite games. It's kind of like a social deduction game where you've got the actual station fall itself, it's falling into Earth's atmosphere, and you've got X amount of rounds. And there's a whole bunch of NPCs on board, from colonels to billionaires to scientists, botanists, all kinds of people on there. And at the very beginning of the game, everyone gets dealt identity cards, 2 of them, to one of the many characters that are on board of this. And you have to select which one is going to be you. And then during the actual game, when everyone's got their own criteria based on which character they've picked, no one knows who anyone else has. So on your turn, you actually can activate any of the characters and make any character do whatever you want without revealing essentially who you are. So it's kind of like a hidden deduction game, but everyone's the betrayer.
Yeah, I think the thing I really enjoyed about it, and when we talked a couple of weeks ago about games I like, I talked about that player interaction, but also telling stories. And I think that's one of the things that Stationfall does really, really well. It's no 2 games of Stationfall are likely to be the same, because you randomize all the characters, and also the players that you play with are all going to make completely different decisions. So just by mixing up like 3 key elements, you end up with this space where everything just becomes different. You're playing in the same station, and you kind of know what the characters in the game are likely to want to do, but you have no idea who wants to do what. So
Yeah.
it is. It's just a really good way of keeping it fresh.
Chaotic, theme park, all the good things that I love. Nah, I
Yeah.
had a really, really, really good
Except
time.
when you have a 100% chance to get the wormhole. If you don't know what the wormhole is and you play Stationfall,
Remove it.
remove the wormhole.
Just take it out.
Yeah.
All right. So this week on Dirt, we actually cover the scenario that we're going into. Now we actually cover scenario 8. So we're kind of backtracking back to some of our original options. And this is one that we completely overlooked, or we just chose not to go, didn't we? We wanted to go kill some crabs, and there was one about mechanical. Well, you said like robots, right? Pew pew.
Yeah, well, that sounds like robots.
Yeah, yeah. That's where we decided to go this time. We were actually planning on going to kill the boss that we mentioned earlier, and one of our players, Calvin, my partner, couldn't attend this session, so we ended up three-manning it and deciding not to take on the boss. We'll take on a different scenario and we'll do the boss when he can attend, which will be tomorrow. So we ended up going with scenario 8, the Crystal Trench.
And I was before we get too far into exactly what it was, I think we kind of anticipated it to be much like the first crab mission. We're like, oh, we'll just go to this easy one and we'll go punch some crabs. Oh, we'll just go to this, basic vanilla type thing and we'll go punch some robots. But it didn't turn out to be that at all.
No,
There was no robots.
no,
And it wasn't really vanilla.
no familiar friends, unfortunately, which I'm getting a little sick of. So we went there. We did an outpost event towards the end, and then we'll have a little chat towards the end about what we thought. So we decided to head east. Satha, a long time ago, gave us a quest to say that she had scouts that were seeing strange mechanical beings out there and wanted, us to go and investigate. And we were like, crabs, yeah, we'll deal with that. And then we got very sidetracked with everything else. And upon looking at all our available scenarios, we're like, oh, we haven't actually gone down this path yet. So maybe we'll go and do that one right now. And yeah, we got ready to go head towards scenario 8. And we actually had a road event along the way.
I actually have this vision in my head of us and Frosthaven and our quest givers. We have diverted from the main quest, and I feel like we're playing that RPG where the main quest giver is sitting in town going like, please go up this snow mountain and deal with this major issue that we've got, which is a really big threat and probably, is going to lead to many other areas. And we're like, yeah, we're going to go to this other place first, but we will be back. Okay, we promised we will come back and do your quest thing next time. And then we do go fight wolves, or we do go fight crabs, or we go investigate bird people, and then we keep coming back because thanks for the clarification from the person who told us we have to. We definitely come back, and it's almost like we come into Frosthaven and just awkwardly try to slip past her so she doesn't see that we're back in town. Like, so hey, how'd you go? Did you do the really important quest thing that I sent out? We're like, we will. Yeah, really about to do it. Like right about to do it. Right now, we promise.
There's a fear of we do it and the game over credits start going up. And we're like, well, what about all those other things we didn't get a chance to do? So we need to do the other things first because hers might be the last quest.
That's it. It could be the end, right? And that, there maybe the main quest chain only has 5 missions and everything else is side quest.
That's right. So our road event, we had a very interesting fellow. Can I say that? Do you remember what this was?
No, I have absolutely no idea. So can you say vague things that don't point towards anything, and I'll see if I can guess it and then make comments?
So it was money orientated, right? Buy some of my stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, totally remember. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Like there'll be other ones that are like, hey, dude wants to buy stuff, and
buy
that's
stuff.
what we did. Yeah.
And besides, I'm not revealing what happens when you do or do not buy stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when we made a decision, we had to come to a decision. We exchanged currency for stuff.
Yeah, we exchange money for goods and or services, and that's what we chose to do. So because we're not going to talk about this, and it almost seems pointless, so I'll kind of make a reason why it's useful to discuss this. I quite like some of these road events that are coming up,
Yeah.
they're adding in not like, again, not the good bad thing we talked about, the coin flip thing, but they're adding in these cool little interactions of like, hey, here you can get a benefit out, but you just got to choose which way you want to go, right? And we've had some of these that have been, contribute to this. Do you want to give this item, or do you want to engage in some form of purchase with this person? You don't know specifically what you're going to get. Like, they're not. I come across a person say, if you want this, pay this. If you want that, pay that. So it is kind of cool because we're kind of getting to interact in that sense.
Yeah.
And it gives you the opportunity of it's almost like becomes a mini push your luck, because there's some responses that are like, oh, that seems like we'll get something okay out of it. Or do we go down that other path that sounds really cool, and it actually ended up, in our case, having a negative side effect, but we did get something cool.
They've definitely given you something to think about. They haven't come across too much where we're all in unison, are like, oh no, definitely that. Right? A lot of them have caused us to actually sit there and go, oh, I don't know. And then we look around the room and we all have a blank look on our face, and then we just say, well, okay, let's try and work this out. Who wants to do this? Who wants to do that? Well, I think that this may result in this, this, this. Oh, I haven't thought about it from that point of view. And yeah, we have a good chat about it before we lock something in. And so far, yeah, no, you're right. They've been very interesting. And they could have definitely gone down a very vanilla kind of path.
Yeah, they just seem to have added in a slight different decision kind of tree or situation, and I'm enjoying it. I'm not just so thinking that we're going to come across a bear or a battle or someone. You're right, like that's the kind of conflict. So yeah, it's cool.
So along the way, we said goodbye to the event. We said bye, Mr. Event, and we continued heading towards some coast, some cliffy area with strange mechanical beings in the distance that we couldn't quite see. And we didn't really notice, but we were actually still getting tracked by hounds. And we've kind of dealt with these in the past, so I didn't see what the big deal was. We could have just
wolves, yeah, they were wolves.
Yeah. Don't want to do this again. But wolves, we were getting chased by them, and they were tracking us. And instead of turning around and fighting them like we do in every scenario, we decided to run. Don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, because I can only imagine there was like 1,000 of them, right?
Oh well, yeah, maybe.
Because if there was 8, we probably could have just stopped and killed them and then continued along.
That's true.
It must have been 1,000.
Yeah, we'd be exhausted before we got there. So we got chased by these wolves basically into the scenario. So we set up the scenario, we got our goal, and we started off with a little curvy, bendy tile. And lo and behold, what do I see when I'm setting it up? Snow imps and a polar bear.
Yep. I think like, deja vu.
Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Now, this is purely, obviously, random, right? We wouldn't have any. It's just very funny that the last few scenarios we've had have had snow imps and polar bears, like quite a few of them, and it's just the ordering of how we've chosen this.
Yeah, and I want to do a shout out to whoever it was that like hit us up and said, "Sorry guys, don't mean to like rain on your parade, but you're completely doing snow imps wrong. They're not brittle; they make you brittle." Because since that point, we've basically encountered them like every single scenario. So if you hadn't said that, right, we would be doing this going like, you know what? Frosthaven is so easy because everything just blows up. Right. So again, I know we thanked you at the time. I'm going to thank you again because yes, you've definitely saved us a lot of, oh no, what have we done? And it kind of being way too late to fix it. So
yes. So here we go again. We've got like 4 or 5 of these snow imps. Now, mind you, we're a 3-man party this time. We don't have our bone shaper with us. We've got about 4 or 5 of these snow imps in the back of this little corridor, and we have 1 polar bear there. And the scenario goal was, it's basically completed when all the characters have escaped. All right, that was it. That's all it said. That was it. And then it actually had a section of special rules, actually. Sorry, the big purple box that I forget, which is separate to the scenario goal. It said special rules, kill all polar bears, and no one is allowed to exhaust. If anyone exhausts, we lose. Now, we haven't come across that before. We've come across if the priest dies, you fail. If that exhausts, but not if it's us.
Mm.
So, and we've run into quite a few scenarios recently where one or two have exhausted. So that did make me a little bit nervous going in here.
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing of note when we set it up was because we haven't played with 3 people before, it really wasn't that much different. Like I was expecting, because I think you'd set it up for 4, and then you're like, oh no, wait, it's 3, and all it did was just change the polar bear from elite to normal.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, that still looks really bad. Like, and there's only 3 of us to take all this snow imp barrage that's likely coming. So
Yeah, definitely. So we dealt out our battle goals. I want to have a little chat about this shortly, because this ties in quite nicely into the first part of this room. So as we're starting to get ready to go, and all we know is we have to escape. We don't know what that means. We just have to escape. We assume it's an escape tile. We're going to plow our way through these snow imps. We did make the call of whether or not we should bother killing them, or do we just hit the polar bears really hard and make our way all the way through. We thought we'd wait and see after the first round. So we picked our battle goals, and we basically had our first round, how much prep was going to go into it, etc. Now, I want to play a little something for you. I want to play a little something, and tell me if you remember this.
let's do that and let's just pray. Pray.
Why are we praying?
I need the frost imps to go later.
Are you ranged right now?
I am.
Okay. 71.
80.
86. We were all waiting for them to come.
27.
Oh, that's a bit different.
Come on. Oh, they f***ed me. Oh, it would have been perfect as well.
Why?
I needed to go before them. Yes, I did. I did remember that. And I'm like really surprised that I used that low amount of profanity because I had a wave of frustration come back through me just listening to that situation. So
Yeah. So can you explain what happened?
yeah, so the battle goal that I had, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically kill a monster before it has its first turn. So essentially, I looked at that, and because I think this is the annoying thing, which I can talk about a bit later, I thought, you know what, I can do this one because we're starting in a room with frost imps, and I can blow one of these up. Like I can hit something for 4 or 5 damage and kill it. And I've got a power pot, so I have the chance to make sure that, you know, unless I miss, I will be able to kill it. So I counted the squares, and I was like, yeah, cool, I can do this one. So I grabbed that, and I just needed to move forward and hit a frost imp and kill it, and then I would have gotten 2 ticks. And not only would I have gotten 2 ticks, but my battle goal would have been out of the way. My favorite battle goals are the battle goals that you don't have to worry about. The ones that you just get rid of. They're done, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, I feel like I'm just feet up and I can cruise through the rest of this scenario. And anyway, I went the quickest I can in my range form, which is 27, as you can hear on the recording. And they went at 24, meaning they got in before me. Now, the other way to achieve this battle goal is to, when you open a door, because you get to finish your actions, or, you know, they have their actions once that person's finished. So the other option I had was like, I'm like, okay, I can still do this. But what I need to do is I need to bust into a room and just nuke something real quick, you know, and hey, there's snow imps, right? So there'll be something very nukeable. Did you want me to talk about what happened later on as well, just because it fits into the same?
I've actually forgotten when that happened.
So
yeah,
I had one more good chance to do this, okay, and it was in the 3rd room. And so we had a bunch of imps, we had a polar bear still, and everyone's like, okay, well, we can deal with this is fine. We didn't know how many rooms there are because we don't know. And I went, yeah, totally, we'll deal with this. And then I had my turn, and I just legged it into the room, had picked one of my biggest, highest damaging cards, and I went, I'm just going to jump in there and just blow up a snow imp to do my battle goal, right?
that's right.
And the room opens. And one of the other weird things about the Geminate's cards, and especially range ones, is they've got to be really specific ranges. I think we talked about this last week. I jumped into a room to use a really big attack, and it had to be within, like, I think it's range 4 or 5. but I had an extra movement, and so I looked at it and went like, I should be able to manipulate this enough to get within range of one. So all I needed was one snow imp in there, right? One snow imp. And what was in that room? One solitary polar bear. And
Elite.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, it was elite as well, I'm pretty sure. Because I was like, even if it was a normal, then I probably could have had a crack because I think I was going to hit for like 7. And, that was if I drew a 0. So there's a chance that I draw a crit. I mean, I had 2 and a bless in there, I think. So there was a decent chance I pull it. I at least would have had a go. But the elites have like 14 or 16 or something like that. But yeah, I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm so annoyed at this one. And the icing on the cake no, not even no, that would be a good thing. The salt in the wounds, right? I already beaten and battered, and then the game is just like, oh, you want some salt? Is that you want just make sure you really feel the pain? The other option I had in my battle goal choice that was potentially doable was one that said kill 5 enemies. I'm like, no way am I going to be able to kill 5 enemies? That's like ridiculous. Like, I don't usually kill a lot of enemies. I do a lot of damage, like spread out, but I don't usually kill a lot of things. I think I killed like 5 in the first room and a half because I killed 4 of the first snow imps and then I killed like 2 more in the next one. And I said to Phil, it was like halfway through the second room, I'm like, that's the 5. Like, literally, I just hit 5. And I think by the end of it, I killed like 8 things.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's just makes me feel so much worse that
Yeah.
I could have chosen the easier one, which actually turned out to, I thought was going to be harder.
I just feel like that is such a anomaly for a last room tile. It's supposed to be the hardest. It's supposed to have the most things in there that make you go, oh god, how have we just done all this and now we've got this to get through? Like
One snow
last
imp.
tile, and it's
One
one polar bear.
One snow imp. That's all I wanted. One, like, I didn't care what was in there. Just one snow imp, please. So yeah.
So yes, you touched on something I was going to mention, which was what you did manage to do in that first corridor was make very, very short work of the snow imps. And you played your super duper retaliation at range 2 or 3, everything dies card on these guys that don't have the most mana health. And in doing so, messed up my battle goal. So we actually revealed our battle goals relatively early because, well, I did anyway, because mine was cooked from the very start, which was, let me have a look. We had Daddy opener, kill the first enemy to die. So I just had to kill the first thing that died, right? And I was like, look, there's a chance I'll get this. Now, I probably should have thought about this a little bit more, but a part of me was like, looking at the setup, the imps are at the back, the polar bear's at the front. Polar bear's going to come closer to us a little bit, and then we're all going to jump on it, and I'm going to get the last hit in it, and it's going to be all happy days. But no, what happened was guys went in there, did a retaliate, and killed all the snow imps, which, look, was brilliant, but also messed up my battle call.
I thought that you had a chance to do yours, but you whiffed on your first attack.
Well, I was talking about that afterwards, but it turned out that you had killed them before I had done that.
Okay.
So that was just extra salt in my wounds,
Yes.
basically. So yeah, everyone ran past. Gaz ran past the polar bear. Phil ran past the polar bear as well and gave it a good clip across the ear along the way. And I slowly, after my prep round, made my way up to it and goes, all right, buddy, it's you and me. I'm going to play something for you guys. This is my recording. So that was bottom one, so get an XP, and then hitting for 3, and we're going to move that one there. So we're hitting for 5.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god!
Here, I'm thinking what I'm going to do with my shit.
audio.
Yeah. Turn 1. Oh my god. Just had to.
I'm dirt daddy. Yep. That was a good moment. It was a great way to start the session, and everyone thoroughly enjoyed it.
First card has to be a miss, and it's just has to be me as well, because things were looking really cruisy, and it's never going to be cruisy. We had the imps down, and it was literally just me and the polar bear while you guys were getting ready to go into the next room and open the thing. So I miss. The polar bear missed against me. Now, he still impaired me and still, did stuff like that. So we had a bit of a bad shootout where we were just missing each other and delaying our fight, which was really, really bad. Now, eventually, yeah, we did kill it. I think Phil came back and threw a ranged thing at it, which took it down to 1 health and said, you should be able to finish that off. And I was like, well, hang on, we'll see. Spoiler alert, I did. And then we made our way into the second corridor. So we opened the second door to make it into the second corridor, and, no big crazy surprises. We're just getting more snow imps and 2 polar bears. And that's where the special rules trigger suddenly came into effect, which was we actually spawn wolfhound wolves out of the starting spawn zones that we started in. And we get a normal one, because we're playing with 3 people, we get a normal one every round, and then every alternative round we get an elite one instead. And it played into, I guess, the thematics of the wolves are still chasing us. Which is really cool, actually. I in my head I was like, well, they're so far away. We're going to be blazing through all this. It wasn't so much the case.
No, because apparently they had nitro.
They did. They shoot up, and in this room I actually had a second Amdirt. This is the one that I said I'm gonna hit the elite one, and we're gonna use my poison vial to poison it first. We're gonna use my sword, which I hadn't used yet. And I basically pulled together a big string of, here's my giant whooping hit. And I had a massive Amdirt there as well. So...
That's right. You blew all your cooldowns for that one hit, didn't you? And then it was just like, bye-bye.
Yeah. And I'd actually noted down, that they had been missing me as well. So it was really interesting how many nat misses I was receiving as well as giving out. It was, what was that? It's going to be a reference that no one understands. It was, I don't know. Damn it. No, it's fine. I was going to say it was, I can't remember which Carlton game it was where they were both not scoring. And it was terrible. We got Victoria listeners. It's fine.
Yeah, well, like it was, yeah, I think we never really felt in danger as we went along. And the wolves especially didn't seem to add much of a threat. I did think it was really cool that they were going to keep spawning and chasing us there so we couldn't take our time. And it kind of added that fluff, that flavor, which was cool. But it did actually end up playing in, because they average move like 4 spaces or something like that. So, it only took a couple of turns of us not really moving that far, and they were right up, like, in our...
This was the room. Yeah, this was the room that before the wolves had come in, I'd gone up to start tanking and doing my thing, and the snow imps, because you didn't one-shot them with retaliate this time, they actually got a few hits in, and I got brittled, and then the polar bear hit me for 5.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you got hit really hard.
Just like that, I got hit for 10, and I was like, yeah, I'll take... Ooh, no, I won't.
Yeah.
And I discarded the card for it, and I was like, oh, brittle's kind of rough. And to be honest with you, I actually copped 4 status effects at the one time at some stage.
Yeah.
It was poison, brittle, wound, and impair.
Yeah, that attack that the snow imps did that does the poison and the brittle, and it was just went to show how it turned almost kind of meh attack from the polar bear into a big one, because it was an attack 3. Yeah. So it hit for attack 3. The poison made it 4. It drew a +1. Right, yeah. Which is going to happen sometimes, so that's fine. So that went to 5, and then because you were brittle, you took an extra double damage. Just like, wow, you just took 10 damage on an attack 3 attack. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. And it kind of made me go, oh, okay, having brittle, real bad. Like, real bad.
Oh, definitely. It's just, yeah, so the snow imps, yeah, when teamed up with other things, I mean, look, when you got a bunch of snow imps that are shooting at the same target, like we saw in the bombing run one on you, super scary. But yeah, I'm gonna be real with you, I'm a little over them.
Yeah, I think it would be good for us to see a little bit more variety. Not that's going to come across wrong, like there's not a lot of variety in Frosthaven. I'm sure there are, and I have a feeling it's the way we're going about the missions, because we're kind of dabbling in different kind of chains of the quests, I guess, if you want to put it like that. But we're not going really far, and I imagine that when they're designed, they're probably designed with a theme, but then they would evolve over time. And I think we just managed to hit 3 in a row that had wolves had frost imps, snow imps, and probably had polar bears.
Yeah.
Which was the bombing run, the wolf one, and then this one. So it has just probably been our fault and a bit of randomness. But yeah, I'm the same. I was hoping for this mission to take us to a wondrous land of robots.
And I remember in this second room that you and Phil kept, I mean, you were doing the right thing. You were making your way towards the exit, right? The polar bears were still alive, but there was always one snow imp that was like within 2 or 3 of me that was meant to target one of you guys, and then you'd just leave the area, and then it'd go, oh, that's okay, I'll hit this drifter that's fighting the polar bear, and it would re-brittle me every time, because I'd take the 10, lose the brittle, cop another brittle. Whilst fighting, I'm like, this is not okay. Look, we ended up clearing that room as well, so that's a good thing. It's just, yeah, by this stage, the wolves started coming up the corridor, and more were spawning, and they're pretty fast. The thing that I want to mention now is going into this scenario, Phil and I were 16 XP off hitting level 5. We had 16 to go, which we calculated based on the difficulty of the scenario we were doing. The scenario, if we succeed, was going to give us 8. So we need to get 8 XP in the scenario. But because it was a race scenario where you got to escape in a certain amount of time, and there was no big super hard objective at the end that it was going to take our time on, and I didn't get to strap a whole bunch of prep cards in. We actually flew towards the end in that last room with the one solo polar bear in the escape room with the 4 spaces to escape. And I'd only accumulated maybe 4 or 5 XP by that stage. And Phil was in somewhere similar. So we then realized that we kind of want to hang around a little bit. And Gaz is like, come on, the escape's right there, guys. Let's go. And Phil and I just were like, but we haven't got our 8 XP yet.
Yeah, and the other thing that was kind of not so much that I didn't want you guys doing that. It was that I think by that stage it was only about 7 o'clock. So I was looking at time, going,
Yeah,
we could really easily get another one in, because we're basically done. Like we got to kill this one polar bear who's just chilling next to the exit, and then just stand on these squares. Like this is 10 minutes tops, right, for us to get through this. And then it didn't take 10 minutes. It took about an hour.
yeah, we were trying to. The game definitely slowed down a lot, and Gaz brought this up, and this is not something that I believe. This is definitely not something we do. We don't go into every single game and min-max as much XP, loot, and all of that as possible. I think it's more, when I look at, we have 16 XP to go, we on average are pulling in anywhere between 15 to 20 per scenario. So it was a given that we were probably going to get it just passively anyway. But the makeup of this particular scenario, because it was actually not too challenging and we could finish it right then and there, it was quite quick, meant that, we actually didn't get the XP that we thought we were just passively always going to get. And because we were so close to leveling up, I mean, who doesn't want to level up? Because we're going to go to Frosthaven anyway. So this is the one time that it's kind of bogged down a bit. As Phil and I, we've killed everything. Now we're literally relying on these wolves to come all the way up so that we can use cards and abilities on them to push our XP without exhausting. And that's the bit that became a little bit scary, is that we're burning cards, Gaz is already getting a little bit low, or is our greed going to be our undoing just because of this XP situation?
And there was a couple of instances, I think, where Phil was like, I need 2 more turns or something like that, and did a little bit of math. And we know that the Wolfhounds have a really low initiative card. They got a few really good cards, actually. And we know they've got at least one card that immobilizes, if not multiple. And I kind of did a little bit of math, and I said, you're within range, easy within range for them to move up and immobilize you, Phil. And if you do, I think you're going to get swarmed by 3 of them, and you're probably going to die. And he was like, oh, no, I'll just teleport. I'm like, no, movement. It just stops all movement. Okay. It doesn't matter. You're immobilized. You can't go anywhere.
Post-production Daddy here, Gaz catches his own mistake and rectifies it later on in the episode.
So, yeah, I think that changed what he did slightly, because he was like, oh, okay, I don't want to be here then. And we kind of moved back so that they didn't swarm anyone, and you guys still got to do your XP.
it was such an interesting, like, definitely not for you, but like for us trying to solve the puzzle, because I need drifters get XP from moving tokens, and because I only put 2 persistent cards on, that was it. I didn't have the third one. One of them is a movement one, which I know I was going to get, but then I had to play the cards in order to be able to push the token back so I could push it over the threshold multiple times. And that was my puzzle, but also I had crushing weight on. So I needed to hit something, but I didn't want to run all the way back down the corridor like an idiot and start wailing on these wolves just in case of that entangle, that immobilize. So it was like I don't often struggle with card choice. I was really struggling with working out which 2 cards to play so I could keep getting this off and get the XP that I needed. So yes, we did eventually do it and we escaped, and then we didn't get to play the second scenario.
Yeah, which is fine anyway, and I think that's for us especially of an evening is a little bit of a trap. We've done it before and it didn't work out well because we got another scenario that was a little bit longer and it started to get really late, and by that stage people are just like, just go, and that's not really how you want to play the game. So it was fine either way, and it's not. You're 100% right. We haven't really had that situation before where we've really dragged out the end of the game and gone oh, you know what? There's only one monster left. We just have to kill it to win. Let's just take 5 turns and go loot all the tiles. Or let's take, and add an extra half an hour, 45 minutes on it every mission. So you're right, because it had that milestone of both you and Phil going to level up, it did make sense to do that. It just was like looking at the time, I'm like, oh, okay. That wasn't like an extra 15 minutes of playing.
Yeah, no.
And it's fine, but yeah.
Yeah. If it was something that was a bit more consistent, I think something would be said. Not that there's anything wrong if everyone's on board. So if there are groups out there that like to play this way and maximize their turns and maximize the amount of money and loot and all that, I mean, go for it. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's just if the group is split, yeah, it can become a little bit tougher to negotiate around, the best way to play for the group.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think it's something that I remember discussing before we even started playing Frosthaven. I think even before it had arrived, we're just talking about the game in general, and it's something that I haven't thought of any way of making it fine, but I don't really like. Sounds really strong. I think the XP being tied to cards does change a few things, and it can create these situations. It can also create weird situations with how your character works based on the scenario. You can get more or less XP. It can be harder to get XP on some characters just based on how their cards work. And I don't know if that's a great thing. I think it's really cool from a perspective of everybody's different. And I like that because you kind of see your cards, and it does add that little element of like, well, how selfish can I be? Because I want to play this suboptimal card to get XP rather than the really important card that doesn't give me XP because I want XP. So again, it creates that almost way of the game, making it harder for ourselves, and that's cool. I like that. But I think some of them can be tied to, I mean, like the Geminate, for example. It's really hard to get XP outside of burning cards, and you can get scenarios that don't go that long, or you don't know how long they are, so you don't want to lose the scenario for everybody, and it limits how you play.
Yeah.
Like if we've got a scenario that says if anybody exhausts, you lose. Well, I'm not going to just go hard at the start and just burn all my cards, because if it ends up being a 3 or 4 room scenario, I'm not going to make it. So, and that's makes it a bit tricky. Because you don't really have the ability to catch up. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's just part of the game.
Yeah, just make it work for, I guess, your group. All right, well, we basically won that one. We all escaped. We've already gone over 2 of our battle goals, which we failed. Phil's battle goal was Vanguard. Never attack an enemy that hasn't acted this round. And I think he did that. That was a 2-ticker. So well done, Phil.
I don't know. I just looked up because I just had this idea that I'm going to get corrected on this because I haven't looked it up, and I have to now tell Phil that he's right. You can teleport when you're immobilized.
Oh.
So
Oh, am I leaving that in? Is that what we're doing?
No, I feel like you should go in and edit that out so we don't get the clarifications.
No, I can't.
Yeah, 100% you can.
No, post-production dirty here. Gaz, what do you have to say?
Teleport is an ability that transports a figure. It's not considered a move ability, so thus can be performed while the figure has immobilized.
Ah, nice. All right, awesome.
So that's good
cool.
for Phil to know.
Yeah. Well, we won't tell him, although he does listen to this, so.
Yeah, he's going to learn.
All right, we have our DPS meters this week. So our Deathwalker, played by Phil, smashing out 57 damage. Now, we had no shields or any of that kind of stuff to deal with, so it was just a nice raw 57, which is fairly big. He finished off with a 10 hit, which must have... No, I'm not too sure what that was on, because the polar bear was not the last thing to die. He took 7 damage and mitigated 4 of it. So that's pretty good. He's getting much better at survivability. And to top that all off, he actually healed for 10. So, yeah, there's a big numbers for him.
How did he heal for 10? I know that he used his heal pot, but I think...
He healed for 5, and I don't know what that was, but it was a 5 heal. Oh, the new heal, we got an item.
Oh, that's right. Yes, we have an item that heals someone else. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That's right, used on you, I believe.
Yeah.
So
he's got that, so his heal, he's going to...
top and heal meters now.
That's it.
Chapman Nate, 41. So 41 raw damage, again, fairly good. And 20 damage taken and mitigating 1. So clearly in the midst of everything.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to get my shields up. So that was one of the things I didn't get. So I didn't have any prep because I jumped straight in. So I was just kind of taking it and hoping for the best.
There is one here that you full mitigated with a 6-6. So that must have been the nasty one.
Hard, yeah.
And then 6 healing for you. And then Drifter, I finished on 24 damage, 23 taken, and I blocked 11. And I'm pretty sure that was from all the polar bear and the fat brittle. And 4 healing. So, yeah, lower damage there, but yeah, I spent more time further behind, I guess. What did you think about scenario 8?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I like the chase kind of mechanism. Again, it's a different way of making us hurry through the scenario without having you just lose at X turns. And I thought that was cool. It seemed, I don't want to say a little bit easy, but a little bit short.
Yeah.
But it could just be one of those ones. And because we did have a little bit of a time pressure, we're probably not hanging around. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was a good way of kind of combining what we were doing in the world and what we're doing in the scenario. I am agreeing that I'm getting a little bit over polar bears and snow imps, so hopefully that changes. But yeah, other than that, I thought it was a good basic kind of vanilla one with a little twist.
Well, this is a fascinating thought, is that where we started this particular scenario, for other people, it might have been their first instances of meeting the snow imps, right?
That's true.
So it could have been a very different experience for other people when this is their first encounter with snow imps and polar bears. And for us, we've just had multiple scenarios. Probably if we're looking at the tree branches of decisions and paths we could choose, we've gone back earlier to then play this one here, because this one is kind of like the equivalent to the crab one. It's that first one in the new branches that spread out. So and yeah, I think that probably adds a bit to it. We've also seen some fairly complex rules and scenario goals and all that kind of stuff. So to come back to something that wasn't kill everything, but was still relatively like clean and different, was actually kind of refreshing at the same time. But I'm kind of with you on this. Thematically, I thought it was really, really cool, but at no point was I like, oh no, we're in trouble.
Oh, I had a couple of moments like that at the end when you and Phil were like, oh, well, can we just maybe move towards the walls for a little bit? I'm like, oh, please make it. And then someone did like, okay, cool, yeah, we're going to the exit now. And then they did like a move 2. And I'm like, a move 2? What do you mean a move 2? That's not go to the exit. That's not really quick. That's just like a leisurely stroll. And you've got these like 3 or 4 walls by that stage, like nipping at your heels that are just going to like immobilize you at any moment. So there was a couple of moments like that for me. But yeah, for the most part, it was pretty straightforward to get through.
What I would like to also know is what would have happened if we had a Bone Shaper in there? Bone Shaper with all their pets, and how would it be harder? Would it be easier? Would it be how different would it be?
Yeah, we were talking about this during. I think what would have happened was his pet army would have just got sucked into where the wolves spawn. So,
They would have
I
gone
mean,
backwards.
pardon?
They would have gone backwards.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, because they were always going to end up being closer to the wolves than they would to the other enemies. Until Kelvin was able to move far enough along, right, and then maybe resummon. But in that instance as well, I don't know. I think it actually would have been easier because his summons can be quite tanky, right, and they can dish out some decent damage. So if he had 2 or 3 summons sitting at the back, and there was only one wolf spawning every turn, that's not going to get out of control.
Yeah.
Right, so it would have just meant Calvin just slowly plod his way along and pick up
That
gold
would be
along
the
the
hard
way.
bit, right? That would be the hard bit of waiting for him to come up 2 steps at a time
Yeah, yeah,
to maybe make it. By the time he
yeah,
gets there, we would have solved our XP puzzle
maybe.
and we'd all finish. I've
Yeah,
learned to be a little bit more selective with battle goals. I forget that I need to prep. So anything that involves being super hyper aggressive, I need to hold back because my brain's like, yeah, I can do that. Wait a second, I forget about my, turn 1, which is when I'm not doing that. And finally, loot deck. So in this particular scenario, we did loot a little bit as we do, and the loot is tracked in the app on the computer. And we've noticed over the last, however many scenarios we've done, we never get the random item, the random chest that comes from the loot deck. So there's actually a feature on the app that lets you delve into the deck to have a look what it's made up from. And the icons that were in there were matching up with the scenario icons, which was fine. But there was no random loot icon. And I was like, oh my God. And everyone looked at me and I looked at them and we had this shock horror moment. And then I then checked in the book again and it didn't have the random loot icon, which I just assumed was always by default in every single scenario. So it was just a realization that only some scenarios have it. And luckily the app tracks that and it's in the actual app and when we play it. We've just actually been unlucky where we just haven't been pulling it.
yeah,
Because we just pull every piece of wood in existence. And lately we're doing that with Hired at the moment. But yeah. So not really a major problem. Just it's an RNG thing.
yep, definitely.
What are you looking forward to next week, guys?
Well, I think we're going to do the boss, so I'm looking forward to that as a scenario. And I also think I've managed to play around with the elements a little bit more with my character, with the Geminate, and I managed to get some of them off a little bit. I was kind of, again, just trying to see that extra level of puzzle. So I'm looking forward to having another crack at that to see if I can start getting the elements out, converting them, using them. Because I managed to do it a couple of times in that scenario, which was really... And yeah, I just want to try to master that piece because I think it'll just give me a little bit more of a leg up with some of the cards I use. Because some of them have some pretty cool abilities. If, even the heal, I think like the heal is like a heal 3, but if I can eat fire, it gives them regenerate, which was something that this mission we just had, I managed to have on myself for most of the scenario because I wasn't getting hit in between the start and the end, and it helped quite a lot.
That's true. And you actually had a new card as well, the pulling McPool card, right?
Yeah, I do. So that's something that the bottom of which I didn't get to use. So
Yeah.
I have to try and use that one. So yeah, I've got a couple of cards that I'm trying to get out. But yeah, that's probably what I'm looking forward to. What about yourself?
Looking forward to, because I've leveled up and I have to make this really, really easy choice of which card I want to take. And, one of them's a attack 4 pierce and the other's a walking and loot card. So, I'm not too sure. Maybe hit me up and let me know which one I should take because they both seem equally good to me.
100% take the move loot card. That sounds like the best one. That sounds like the most fun one, right? Like who wants to hit 4 pierce? Like that sounds boring as. Like
You
just
would.
totally move, loot, take all that. No one's looting. I don't even have loot cards in my deck.
No, neither do I. So that's about it for this episode. Join us next week when we come back after probably doing 2. Or like I said, killing the same boss over and over again and then giving up and burning the game. But in the meantime, I've been Teddy. I've been joined by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly and not getting the right initiative or having snow imp spawn in the room so you can get your battle goal, it's all in the wrist.